Hello, my name is Jerry Beal. The video portion of my YouTube doesn't work, and so I just am going to be. All you'd see in the video is just my head and shoulders, and I'm not much to look at anyway, so you're not missing anything. But I'm going to be telling you things that you don't know. You're making a mistake. Oh my God, you're making a mistake, and I found it out. I've been studying this for over 25 passionate years from a non-traditional psychological masterpiece called A Course in Miracles. And that's what I want to be telling you about on this in this YouTube video, or audio for you. Okay, I'm going to be reading this now. Almost 20 centuries ago, a Greek-turned-Roman Stoic philosopher made the following astounding statement, which is both factual and experientially provable. Here it is. People's minds are not disturbed by events, but by their own judgments on events. People's minds are not disturbed by events, but by their own judgments on events, and that was made by Epictetus, clear back in the year 101 AD. And by the way, the Romans and the people in those days honored Epictetus for his knowledge, and the Romans used to legally invite young girls in that probably just past puberty, maybe only 12, 13 years old, to come in and entertain the soldiers sexually, and then they would go home and get paid very well for it, I would imagine. And that was all legal. Why? Because people's minds are not disturbed by events, but by their own judgments on events. That's why. And people understood it in those days, but we don't understand it now. Okay, I'm reading on now. Therefore, when we're thinking or saying, this makes me happy, but that makes me upset, when we're going along with that most common of all cause-effect scenarios, we're completely ignorant that there's always something mental that comes up in between we as the perceiver and what we as the perceiver are perceiving, which my main mentor calls our own defining mind context about things. So there's the perceiver, and then in between that, there's a mental aspect called our own defining mind context that comes in between we as the perceiver and what we as the perceiver are perceiving. And what that means is when you get into it, you'll realize that we're only relating to our own defining mind context about things, but we think we're relating to the things themselves. Okay, this shows a level shift in perception going on unnoticed and thus unaccounted for within our society. Thus, we're misplacing the actual cause of our own feelings and our own experiences of life. Hello, did you hear what I just said? We're misplacing the actual cause of our own feelings and our own experiences of life. Now, what could possibly be goddamn worse than that? Think about it. We're misplacing the cause of our own feelings and experiences of life. And that, I am absolutely positive of that. You aren't. Thus, if people's minds are not disturbed by events, then people's minds are also not made happy by events either. Thus, it can be honestly concluded that people's minds are not even being affected by events. But people's minds are being affected by their own judgments, interpretations, belief systems, and defining mind contexts about events. In other words, people's minds are being affected by the mental aspects that we apply to the physical or material aspects, but that's not what we're saying. No, instead we're saying this makes me happy and that makes me upset, meaning this material thing makes me happy and that material thing makes me upset, and it's not true at all. It's impossible for a physical material aspect to affect us mentally or emotionally. And do you want to bet a $5,000 or something on that? Bet me $500. I'm really a poor person, but I could sure use $500. Bet me on that. You know, thus be sure to notice that your mindset is not that mindset. You don't believe that people's minds are not being disturbed by events. You believe people's minds are disturbed by events. You believe people's minds are made happy by events. And you believe that so deeply that you'd almost give up your life for it. You know, you from your early formative years were and are like a softly falling leaf into a cesspool of filthy, dishonest, and irresponsible thinking processes, game-playing a false pretense that better and worse conditions and events are causing better and worse lives. That's what our whole foundational mindset is, isn't it? At the foundation. That's why we go here and do this and do that and whatever, because we believe that better and worse conditions and events are causing better and worse lives. We refrain from doing certain things because we think that the events cause worse lives, and there's no truth or fact to that at all. You know, when the truthful facts about that are better and worse interpretations about the conditions and events is what's really causing better and worse lives. Our interpretations cause our experiences, and that's what I call human truth. Only human interpretations are able to cause human feelings and human experiences, and that turns the whole tables around in our entire social world. Nearly all of humanity has been very seriously misled, and almost from the beginning of our lives. This has caused us, at least in part, to not only take up and go along with the victim consciousness, but to defend it and even treasure the victim consciousness from time to time. We're thinking insanely and we don't know it. So let me add here that that bodies can and often are victimized, but we are not victimized. Bodies can and often are victimized, but the trouble is we self-identify with our body, and so we have this stupid idea, you know, that I am my body, and since the conditions and events often affect bodies, then the conditions and events must be affecting me, but they're not. This presentation is mostly regarding nonviolent, non-forcing human sexual activities that we suppose are highly problematic, such as child sexual so-called molestation. I'm saying and noting that we, as almost a whole society, are unable to question the reality of a problem. In fact, A Course in Miracles, which is my main mentor, says this about that. The separated ones have invented many cures for what they believe to be the ills of the world. But the one thing they do not do is to question the reality of a problem. Yet its effects cannot be cured because the problem is not real. We are not able to have real problems in this kind of a time-space world. Our bodies are able to have real problems, but we are not, and we are not our bodies. Thus, I'm declaring that nonviolent, non-forcing, child so-called molestation is not a problem in the same way that fondling the hair on a child's head is not a problem. Did you hear me? I'm declaring that nonviolent, non-forcing child sexual so-called molestation is not a problem in the same way that fondling the hair on a child's head is not a problem. But in making it a problem, we bring hell on earth in a massive way. When Jesus, or trying to make it a problem is what I'm saying, you know, whatever it is the subject, and the subject or the symbol, and it doesn't matter what it is, it's the subject or the symbol. In this case, it would be, you know, child sexual activities, somebody under the age of 18 being sexual with someone over the age of 18, and we call that a highly problematic problem, you know. But it's not. It's only what it is. And if we would relate to only what it is and stop putting our own defining mind context in it, adding it all up in it and then putting it over there and saying that's what happened. See, that's what we're doing. We're putting our own defining mind context about it, adding that in, mixing it all up, and then putting it over to the side and saying what happened was this terrible thing. No, it wasn't. What happened was what it was. What it was, and that alone. When Jesus communicated, when you live by the sword, you will perish by the sword, He might have also said, when you live with unreal problems, you will perish by unreal problems. When you live with unreal problems, you will perish with unreal problems. And that's why, I'm the one that's here to save ourselves from ourselves. Yes, I'm not only declaring that child sexual so-called molestation isn't a real problem, I'm also saying that you, by trying to make it a problem, become the problem, which certainly involves nearly all of the people, at least here in the USA. And as I said, my main mentor is A Course in Miracles. Just one second, I check on the time. To you, either reading this or listening to it on YouTube, and to gain it and keep your attention, let me let you know that when the time is right, I have at least some independent source, like a newspaper person, to follow up with me. I plan to file a petition to be heard where I'm putting a cease and desist order in my own county, Yavapai County, Arizona, that all nonviolent, non-forcing human sexual activity trials are to cease and desist from going on forward. This pending now. The people involved in these trials, where so much drama and so much high anxiety, causing people's lives to be torn apart and families to be broken up and conflicted to such a high degree that the judge, the jury, the prosecution, the public or private defenders, and even traditionally educated clinical psychologists who may be testifying in the trial, that they be ordered as mandatory to finally the hell line up cause and effect when it comes to people's feelings and experiences of life. In other words, what I'm saying, it's pending them finally, goddamn finally, understanding and enough the cause and effect of human feelings and human experiences to go on about their jobs and what they're doing. But they're sure as, look at that. They don't even know the cause and effect of human feelings and human experiences, and yet they're conducting those kinds of trials where people's lives are just torn apart. And it's just a terrible situation. I'm saying, and I will be proving, that the supposed problem of nonviolent child sexual molestation is not real. The new Miss America is from New Jersey. Her ambitions to make a difference, that now she has a stage to make a difference, is around the area of child sexual abuse. She said her own mother, grandmother, and other girls and women in her family have all been touched. She used the word touched by it, evidently meaning that they were victims of it to some degree or another. Even sometimes just the littlest thing can seem to cause a great anxiety, and you know that. And that's because we're not relating to what happens. We're relating to how what happens means for us. And we get that through our belief systems, which are false, because our belief systems are founded on the idea that better and worse conditions and events are causing better and worse lives, when the truth is that better and worse interpretations about the conditions and events is what's really causing better and worse lives. Let me add in here, everyone, just one second and make sure, everyone who has been programmed with the polarizing categorizing of good and evil, right and wrong, carries sexual guilt to some degree. You carry sexual guilt to some degree, even if they think they have somehow repented of it, or that it was so insignificant as to not be counted. Yet it is counted. If you remember it, and if you regret it, and if you'd be ashamed to tell somebody about it, believe me, it's in your mind as a problem, or at least a tiny problem, or something you regret. Even thinking thoughts of sexual activities in various, as we suppose, unacceptable or inappropriate ways causes at least some hidden guilt notions of which the person wouldn't want to keep, that they'd want to keep it hidden. And hiding stuff doesn't work, if only because it's so karmic to do so. Guilt has to be handled as either valid or invalid, and so to be honest and responsible, we simply handle it, guilt, as invalid. It is, here's what my main mentor says about guilt, which certainly is a disease of the mind. Guilt is a disease of the mind, and how guilt diseases our mind is when Adam and Eve took that fruit into their mind in the first damn place. You know, God told them in the first place, don't take that fruit, but they did anyway. And now we have that in our society, that polarizing crap in our society. Marianne Williamson, who was somewhat famous years ago when she wrote the popular book A Return to Love, and who is also a student of A Course in Miracles, has said that she has had interviews or therapy sessions with hundreds of women where nearly all of them had incidences of sexual situations during their younger years. This caused her to wonder if any girl or young lady escapes being sexually abused as a young lady or a child to some degree or another. The same could also be said about boys and young men under the age of 18 too. My God, we're making such a problem out of things like that, and it's so common anyway, because when you get later on, I mean, mom and dad, sex here, sex there, and if the kids aren't home, they run through the house naked, lacy underwear, things that vibrate, you name it, sex. But if somebody under the age of 18, fondles the genitals of someone under the age of 18, oh my God, the world's come to an end. Call out the National Guard. The person has been profoundly violated. Their innocence has been stolen. And all of that bullshit is what is causing all of this problem. You're piling that on both the supposed victim and the supposed perpetrator, and it's all being played out in society's mind as a gigantic problem when it's no problem at all. It's the interpretation that makes it a problem, and because events do not and cannot cause experiences, it means that it can't matter. Child sexual molestation can't matter. Even if you say it can't matter as a matter of fact. You can only pretend that it matters, and you do that through your false belief systems. And I need to shut this off right now. I've gone over the time. I'll say more about it a little bit later. Thanks for listening to this.